Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
Let's go. All right, we almost did it again. We started talking. We were in the middle of a great conversation, and then Matt stopped us and said, "Hold the press. We got to hit record." Thank you, Matt. We have Tom Casey. We are episode 63 now. Tom was episode 7, like
Indeed.
300 years ago.
Yeah.
When we didn't even know what we're doing, and we still don't really know what we're doing. But I was talking on the phone with Matt today that we get jacked up afterwards. It's fun. You're meeting people, you're talking, you know, and I'm talking Tom's language now. So Tom was episode 7. He's a regional director for a pharmaceutical company, but he's so much more than that. He gives back to the community. He's a sports nut. Tom, start talking. We'll see where this goes.
Well, it's funny. It's you just said I give back to the community. Well, I guess they keep asking me back, so I guess I have to be doing something right. It is a passion of mine. I think, for me, I have 3 values. I call them sort of my 3 C's. The first is consistency, right? In order to accomplish anything, you got to keep showing up. That's the first thing. The second C is courage. You got to have the courage to show up consistently every single day. But the third one goes right back to what you were talking about, and that's community. I think it's important to give back. There is no greater satisfaction that you will ever get than volunteering your time for nothing. And I'm lucky enough to partner with, 5 different school districts now. During their career development units, mock interview processes, and that's not even counting what I do with you guys over at New Visions, Paul. And you've kept inviting me back there, and it's great to just provide perspective to people. When we were coming up, we didn't really have that. We didn't really have that avenue, and that's important.
Hey, Tom, back up to your 3 C's.
Yeah.
What start with consistency, but where'd you come up with these, and what made you think these matter so much? You read them in a book, or
oh no. Oh man, holy cow! Now I gotta pull like 5 different things out of the sky to talk about now.
That's okay.
So I'll just talk really high level, and then I'll answer your question very specifically. How about that?
Yeah, whatever you think.
Paul, I talked to your class about this just a few months ago. I'm a big fan of what's known as the rule of 3. The rule of 3 is real simple. It's the basis of what public speaking courses like Toastmasters are kind of built around. And the rule of 3 is something that I've grounded myself on. It's part of everything that I do, whether it's professionally or whether it's personally. The rule of 3 is real simple, and there's shockingly 3 rules, right? The first rule is that nobody ever remembers more than 3 things that you say. We can't do it. The brain's not wired that way. The brain is wired to think in patterns: tick, tack, toe. Just do it. Snap, crackle, pop, stop, drop, roll, red, green, yellow. It's how marketing campaigns are big, important marketing campaigns are built around that idea that the human brain can only absorb and understand 3 things at a time. That's
I can think of political campaigns that are built on that.
Of course. There's a reason, and it's not like I came up with that idea. I'm not smart enough to come up with that, right? These big companies have made lots and lots of money on that philosophy. The second rule of 3 is that if you have 5 things to say, make it 3. If you have 4 things to say, take away 1. So less is more. And then the third rule of 3 is if you're telling a story, and I sort of just did it here, and I'm in the process of doing it right now, but if you have a story to tell people what you're going to say, say it, and then tell them what you said.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So if anybody ever wants to learn how to build an elevator speech, there you go. I just gave you the guide and the outline and the foundation for building an elevator speech. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. It's as simple as that. So that's many, many years ago. Until I grounded myself on the rule of three, nothing seemed to happen. So here's an example. So I've been with the company that I'm with for 24 years. That's somebody earlier today called it a quarter century. That really puts things in perspective. But I've been here for 24 years. And I've been lucky over the course of time to be promoted 5 different times. But what I don't tell people about and what they don't know are the 10 times I tried to get promoted but didn't get promoted. And there was a time during the course of my career during the company that I'm with where I was 0 for 7 in interviewing for potential promotions. 0 for 7. Now, for some reason, I was stupid enough to keep coming back, right? I guess that's where consistency can kind of pay off in the long run, right? But a mentor of mine pulled me aside and he said, hold on a second, let's talk about something. And they introduced me to the rule of three. And the moment that I grounded myself on that, he said, you show up and you just have so darn much to say. There's so much going through your head that you try and tell everybody everything, and it's impossible to do that. Ground yourself on this rule of three and go into every conversation, whether it's one you're having with your kids, your wife, your teachers, or your bosses. And no matter what question is asked of you, compartmentalize it in your head in 3 sections. And that's it. Ever since I've been promoted 4 times since I've done that. And that's the only thing that changed. So now what it becomes, and this is the cool part about it, and I tell this to people that I mentor, I'm mentoring a very good friend of mine who's interviewing with MIT right now, believe it or not. And they're now to the 3rd level of that interview process, whatever that needs to look like. And they told me that when they sat down and they used that approach in front of these people who were way smarter than me, it blew them away, because they weren't used to seeing people sit in front of them with such an organized mindset. The beauty of the rule of three is that it becomes, and it's become this for me, it becomes your default mindset whenever you're asked anything. So when I think of, why consistency has become so important to me, to be perfectly honest with you, I got sick of beating my head against a wall. I got sick of failing. Now, failing is what got me to where I am today, but I got sick of it, and I finally sat down with somebody who mentored me and just listened. That's it. And ever since then, I've built everything that I do around this rule of three concept. And Paul, that's what I talk to your class about when people approach interviews. If you just go into it with that mindset, then boy, oh boy, you can't be stopped. So that's where that comes from.
It's so powerful. It's funny how it went to the back of my mind until you brought it up again. Like when you talk about so many good stuff, so many good things in class, I don't want to say I forgot about it. I didn't file it, I guess.
Sure.
The way to say it. But when you say it tonight, it's going through my mindset for my upcoming sports season. It's going through my mindset. Like those are just words to people. Like the average person at the end of the day hears all this stuff and it's great, but are they going to take any action or do it? It has to become your default mindset. It really, and I don't know, maybe it's because it's the 3rd time I heard this. I don't know. But I've wrote down some good notes already. And Matt, I know you're waiting to ask a question, Matt.
No, of course I am. But when you mention the word consistency, Tom, I think of how important it is and how there's so many people who they don't understand that the success is in that showing up day after day after day after day after day after day after day. No exceptions. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't. I mean, and everyone wants a quick hit, and everyone wants a lottery ticket, and everyone wants to be, a Kardashian or whatever. And that because I'm sure the Kardashians show up every day and their tails off as well. So no disrespect to them and what they've built, but there's this mindset that I just witness all the time of, well, it didn't happen for me today, so therefore I'm going to quit, or I'm going to try something new tomorrow, or whatever the case may be. And I don't think that's where the success comes. I think it comes from the consistency you mentioned, Tom, and strategies like you're talking about that help with that are super important. But I think for most people, if you show up every day and keep grinding, I don't know if you lose that often. I mean, will it take longer than you want? Sure. There's very little in my life that hasn't taken longer than I wanted. But that's a magic in anyway. But I don't think enough of that message, Tom. Not that the other three C's aren't important, but that one in particular just resonates with me because I see so many people just nope. And I just want to say, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you'll be shocked what you turn around and look at in a couple of years.
But you have to have the courage to do that. So that's my second C, right? You have to have the courage to do that. That takes a lot of bravery. It really does. The easiest thing in the world is to shut it down. Shut it down.
Yep.
I mean, listen, I get up every single morning and I go to the gym every single day. Alarm goes off at 5:15. I'm a big process over product guy, and this feeds that mindset, right? And the easiest thing in the world for me to do would be to just hit the snooze button and then forget about it and just take the day off. But I hold myself accountable. So the question that I always ask folks is, think about what's important to you. For me, it happens to be working out. I'll just use that as an example. So whatever is important to you, are you willing to do the work to make sure that you hold yourself accountable? But it goes beyond the word accountable. What are you going to do to own something that is so important to you? So working out is extremely important to me. So what I've done, I've built habits around working out that make it impossible for me not to work out. And let me give you an example of that.
Yeah, please do.
I'm a big fan of staging your area. I don't care what you're doing. I'm a big fan of staging your area. I did it before we got on today. This area had staged. I didn't just walk into this office and say, hey, I'm going to pop on a podcast today. I was purposeful in the way that I set all this up. But every single night, in fact, if I were to take you out there with me right now, in the bathroom, my workout clothes are laid out for me. They're in the bathroom. I don't have it. It has become like brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
Literally, I get up, I go in the bathroom, I do my thing, I put my workout stuff on, I go to the gym, and frankly, it's gotten to the point where I don't even remember doing it.
Yeah.
It's become so automatic and so turnkey. Now, what does that do for me over time? I go to the gym for 1 hour. I'm not out to do anything but just to kind of stay in shape so I stay alive longer. That's really the only purpose that I have for going to the gym, to be perfectly honest with you. But I don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just an automatic response for me. It's a default mindset, just like the rule of three has become with me, just like the process over product mentality has become with me. So I'm a big fan. And then when I get home, and this is where you'll really think I'm crazy. And then when I get home, guess what? On the counter, and I do this every night. On the counter, there's a bowl, there's a spoon, and there's a box of Raisin Bran, or there's oatmeal, or there's Cheerios, or there's some, instead of Fruit Loops or honeycombs or Fruity Pebbles, which I would much rather eat, by the way.
I was gonna say some of my favorites
are really
I know I'm having a hard time. You lost me at Fruit Loops.
so but now I do that so I don't give myself a choice.
right.
I'm a big fan of removing brain fatigue. Big fan. I got too much going on. I don't need to think about anything else. So I'm looking to take things sort of away from my thought process and away from my brain. I don't have to think about working out, and I just do it. I don't have to think about eating somewhat healthy, and I do it. It's that. So what habits, because that's what they are, what habits can you build around what's important to you to make sure you get what's important to you done every single day without giving it a thought? That's the question that's really cool to answer for yourself. And ever since I've done that, everything has completely changed for me, because now I can spend my time thinking about, using my prefrontal cortex, so to speak, to really think about the things that are important that I really need to make decisions about.
Right.
That's my thought process.
I didn't know Tom was a scientist with all that terminology.
I can. We can talk about the amygdala and the brainstem in a minute if you want.
No, but Tom, to your point is, we're making thousands and thousands of decisions a day, right? Yeah. And as a person who's in that position of every day, I'm just making decisions, and some of them are pretty important and affect a lot of people and have large implications, at least for me. If I can remove what I would consider more or less important decisions, maybe that's the wrong word, but I don't want to spend my time on what should I wear and what should I eat. And those are great examples. I don't want to spend any time. I don't want to spend the energy on it. Right? There's only so much there every day, and if I'm searching around for what to eat or whatever, I'm wasting that. And I don't do that nearly as well as you do. It gives me something to aspire to be honest with you.
So how do you automate decisions that you can just make automatically, that don't necessarily have any serious ramifications to them? Right.
Well, I'll tell you one way I did it. I got married, and all sorts of decisions get made for me.
Well, that's for sure. That's for sure.
You're domesticated. Yeah, we
that's
understand.
Exactly right. Welcome to the club, buddy.
I'm kidding, of course, but no, actually, in some ways, it's true. My wife is wonderful and takes a lot of things that I used to have to worry about completely off my plate, which is actually a very wonderful thing, quality to have in a partner. But I, that wasn't the point. But you're right.
She must be listening right now.
She's close enough where she could be. Let's put it that way.
That's the important thing.
But Tom, you're right. I think you were asking a hypothetical question. To me, it's everyone should be asking of themselves, right? How can I take these, less important decisions in some way, or decisions that you already know the answer to? Yep. Like what should I be eating? Not the Fruit Loops, but instead the Raisin Bran.
That's exactly right.
How do I take that off my plate and still make a good decision, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tom, I love this. I mean, you know me, I love my Twitter,
Sure.
And every morning, I know. Hey, I got to tell you a quick story. So I'll get back to point in a minute. We were down in, the Virginia area watching Allie's team this weekend, and there was a recruit from North Carolina that's coming up to Binghamton next year watching, and the dad goes, Paul Richmond, right? And he introduced himself. He goes, hey, stay consistent. I love your tweet every day. And when I told everybody that, they're like, oh, that's the last thing you needed to hear for the day. But I do that every day because I have what I call my non-negotiables. So when I wake up and I get on Twitter, because it's a habit, good or bad, and I see that scheduled tweet, I schedule it 2 months in advance every day, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock stay, and I see it. How can I not do my non-negotiables? I'll be a hypocrite if I don't go run my 2 miles. Whatever the weather, I'm out there and I do my little
Right.
10-minute routine. Like, it's for me, but it's catching on to other people. But I can't physically have that out there if I don't do it. And I'm taking it to another level with coaching now. Kids don't want to hear stay consistent. They don't want to hear non-negotiables. I did some research. Every day, we're going to talk about our daily vitamins. So, as a coach, there's daily vitamins my team has to take every day, and whether they're workouts or conditioning. And I'm hoping, I'm telling you right now, I haven't done it yet. So I'm hoping it resonates with the kids because everybody takes Flintstone vitamins when you're like 2 years old, right? So I
Yep.
think the vitamins, we're all trying to get to the same thing. Whether I don't expect a high school kid to have cereal put out or a bowl the night before. Okay.
Mhm.
But they might do something similar to that. It might get them started on that process. So I just rambled a lot about nothing. This is a lot of video time for me. What do you guys have to say about all that? Daily
What
vitamins.
if what if you wrote down your non-negotiables? That's the question that I have. I mean, I've done it. I mean,
Right.
you can't see it. Actually, yeah, you can see it. So I'll be right back. So right behind me in my office, I've wrote down every single one of my non-negotiables on a whiteboard. On a whiteboard, and I have 6 of them. Rise early, work out, meditate, which is something I'm terrible at, by the way. Connect with family, read, and then my last one is make someone better.
Hmm.
So what have I done to make somebody better today? That's a question that I have to ask myself every single day. And if you do it right, it happens automatically. If you reach out to the right people,
Right.
listen, I'm a hiring manager. I have a team of 10 people. It's easy for me to reach out to somebody and connect with somebody. I have a lot of colleagues. It's easy for me to reach out and connect with anybody that I want to. But here's the deal. It's just as easy for me not to. So whatever your non-negotiables are, I mean, that's what I would challenge people to do. To sit down, ask yourself the question, what are your non-negotiables? And here's what we know, and this goes back to some brain science. When we write things down, they tend to stick.
Yeah.
They tend to stick. And that's what I've done with my non-negotiables. Just it's the same mindset that you have, Paul, frankly.
I noticed, Tom, that all of them except for make someone better were very objective, right? Rise early, read. You know, it's easy to and for me, I like objective. You know, I can know I did it. You know,
Yeah.
make someone better is obviously subjective. How do you know that you've done that?
Well, you don't know, but you do know that you tried.
Okay, fair enough.
You
Yeah.
do know that you tried. Listen, I live I live by a couple of really simple rules. Hey, here's one really cool rule to live by. Hey, be kind to people, right? Be kind to people. Give them some grace. Do your best to leave them better than you found them. That's my intent. My intent with every single conversation that I have with somebody is to leave them better than I found them. Mother Teresa once said, you know what? There's one great way to not allow yourself to get into a routine. How do you break the routine? We all fall into ruts. We all fall into habits. We all get stuck. So what is one surefire way to guarantee that you don't get stuck every day? Well, Mother Teresa said it's real easy. It's real simple. Make every single person that you talk to or interact with seem like they're the most important person in the world.
Mm.
If you do that, you'll never get into a routine because you're impacting so many people in different ways at different levels, of course, depending on who you're talking to. But it's that kind of mindset. Listen, if you just go into every conversation that you're going to have with somebody with the intent of helping, of offering them something to get better. In fact, the reverse actually is true as well. What I find is that the people that I talk to end up making me better. So it's a two-way street. I tell people that I mentor all the time, you know, what you don't realize is that I'm probably going to get more out of this than you get.
That's what Paul and I say after every podcast, right, Paul?
Yeah,
There
we
you
just
go.
talked about it today. Like we don't even, you know, we're having some success on our terms. We don't even know what the terms are as
Yeah,
far as
yeah.
podcasts, but what it does to us afterwards with meeting the guests and talking to the guests and takes me a couple hours to shut down. Like that's the whole point. Like if you can do enough intentional stuff every day where you actually get better, then you're probably helping somebody else in the process.
Yep,
It's
yep.
this is you always have so many nuggets.
Well,
Yes.
you try and live them the best you can, right? You try.
Speaking of that, Tom, is that intentional on your part, or is that just are you interested in these types of things, or
Yeah.
is it personal growth? Is it mentorship? You know, where's the interest come from?
So from my perspective, the interest comes from, look, we think about things that we didn't necessarily have when we started our journey,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes good things happen without you even thinking about it, without you even meaning for them to occur, to be perfectly honest with you. And for me, I don't know really where that came from. I mean, I can tell you that, boy, oh boy, if I wish we all wish we knew what we know now then, right? Yeah, we're all in that position, right? All of us. You know where I think it really comes from? I think it comes from going through some tough times. What people don't know about me is I have a speech impediment. I think that's where that comes from. I think that's where that motivation comes from. I have to keep working on it, and I have to keep getting better at it in order to get to where I want to get, both personally and professionally. So that makes me just want to help other people get better at what they're doing, so I can help them get to where they want to get. And frankly, that's why Paul, that's why I've had such a passion around giving back to the community and helping people get ready for life beyond high school. How about that?
You know what I find so interesting? Interested both of what you guys think of this. You said something that was less surprising to me than almost anything, and it's like it's repeated so often. But I you know, everyone wants, not everyone, a lot of people want to make things better for other people and easier on them, right? Myself included. I think everyone in here wants that.
It's human nature.
Okay. But what I always find is when I ask somebody about why they're passionate about something, it's because they went through a hard time. And what I'm really curious about is if the hard times are what drive us to do that drive us to do whatever. And because I figure the same thing. And there's dozens and dozens of them. What happens when we cure everyone else so they don't have any hard times?
Oh, that's not the point. So that's not the point. I would say, look,
I'm not asking
no,
Tom based on what you'd said. I'm
yeah,
talking about a whole different. This is a whole different conversation based
no,
on
you're
what you
right.
said.
You're right.
I'm not that I'm not interested. Don't get me wrong. I just went down a whole different path. And what I'm asking, and I've asked this to other people as well, never on our podcast. It's like we're all so determined to make life better for somebody, other people. But everyone I know who really impresses me with their passion They're passionate because of something difficult they went through. I never hear this story. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because my life was so easy and I never had any problems. It's
Yeah.
it's always the exact opposite. I had a speech impediment. I had a health issue. I got bullied. This,
Yeah.
that, or the other thing. It's always negative stuff that drives this. And I just
But you
think
know
it's
what?
interesting.
But you know what? That's where growth occurs. That's where growth occurs. Listen, if I think back on it, hey, look, when I went through that 0 for 7 streak
Yeah.
during my career, but when I was going through it, if somebody were to come to me and say, "Hey, Tom, keep showing up. This is where you grow," I might have jumped off my deck to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, but when I look back on it now, that's absolutely where I grew.
100%.
Absolutely where I grew. But man, it doesn't seem like it when you're going through it. That's
Never.
for darn sure. I mean, you know, and the other thing that I've found to be very helpful for me, and I've talked about this a little bit. I think Paul, you and I may have talked about this briefly at one point. There's this principle, it's called the as if principle. As if you should be there. Act as if you should get the promotion. Act as if you deserve to be in the room. It's not a brash attitude. It's not a something is owed to me type attitude.
Mm-hmm.
What it allows you to do is to show up with a more confident mindset no matter what room you walk into. Act as if you're going to get this promotion. When you walk in the door to interview for a job, act as if you're in the job.
And why do you think that's so important? Because it builds some level of confidence in your ability to interact in that environment?
It absolutely does. I find that the as if principle is the antidote for the imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's the antidote for the imposter syndrome because, hey, here's a newsflash. All of us have a little bit of imposter syndrome in us.
Absolutely.
All of us. Every single one of us. We doubt ourselves all the time. That's human nature. There's nothing that we can do to stop that. But there are techniques that we can use to kind of keep that at bay. Because an imposter syndrome on overdrive is really a bad thing. It's really a bad thing. It can absolutely be an obstacle for you when you're trying to get
right?
to where you want to get. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I see it in interviews all the time. Listen, I just spent the last month, gosh, we must have interviewed 130 people over the course of the last month. Oh, you can feel it when they walk in the room. You don't even have to say anything. You can just see it. I can see it when they sit down in front of me, and I can. This is going to go nowhere. This person doesn't have a chance because they haven't given them because they don't believe they have a chance.
Right.
But you can also feel the other side of the spectrum. That person that comes in who really knows that they should be in the room. They're really acting as if they should be in the room. You almost want to give them the job before they sit down in a chair. So it's palpable when people walk into a room. Do you light up the room or do you bring the room down when you walk in? And I've talked about that with your kids a lot.
Yeah.
A lot, Paul. What does your look like?
You really do. Like, that's what I try to preach. Like, do people heighten your energy, give you more energy, or do they drain you? Because, I don't know if you figure it out when you're 18. If you do, it's a superpower. But the older I get, I really don't have time for people that drain my energy, right?
Nope.
It has nothing to do with work ethic or time. Like, I just don't have time for people that I have to work hard to be around. I want to work hard because we get better. I don't want to work hard because I'm trying to lift you up. But you must see it all in the interview process.
Boy, oh boy, interviewing. Boy, if there's one, honestly, if there is one piece of advice that I can give to anybody, especially the youth of America, I don't care how old you are. There's those people in high school right now that are just about ready to put high school in their rearview mirror and they're going to go do whatever they're going to do. Or college kids that are going to go do whatever they're going to do. If you had to master one thing and one thing only, it's how to interview. I'm telling you, it is such a skill that's just underdeveloped.
Tom, let me ask you this: when it comes to interviewing, what do you tell someone based on your experience who comes into that interview and is underqualified to some degree, right? And knows it. I mean, they're in there for a reason, but they probably don't have the experience or the same education or whatever whatever the variables are. What do you tell someone like that? How to get that job, stand out, whatever the right term is.
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I've said since day one in this industry, when I first became a hiring manager, the conversations we have with the people that don't get the job are 10 times more important than the conversations we have with the people that do get the job.
Okay.
Because those are opportunities for us to build people up. Those are Listen, I promise you, every single person that has never gotten a job with me, the conversation that I've had with them, they've left the room feeling like $1 million every single time. Because I came prepared to give them feedback that they could actually do something with.
Okay.
That's the thing. How many, I don't even want to know the answer to this, but how many hiring managers out there just call somebody and say, listen, man, I'm sorry, you just didn't get the job. We had to go with another candidate. Click.
The vast majority.
What, oh my God, you just missed an entire opportunity to make somebody else better, just like what I just talked about. So there's another wasted opportunity to make somebody else better. Here's my advice to them. This goes right back to the rule of three. Right back to the rule of three. I tell people all the time, Paul, you've heard me say this. I'm about ready to say this again to a fax class over at the middle school in a couple of days. When you're getting ready for an interview, there's 3 things that matter. I call them my 3 R's. The first R is your resume. Make sure it's updated, make sure it's complete, and make sure you know it like the back of your hand. Do that, you set yourself apart from other people.
Okay.
The second R is research. Do your homework. Research the company you're interviewing with. Do your homework. Reach out and ask people, who is the person who is going to be interviewing me? Look them up on LinkedIn. Google them. Look them up on Twitter. Do whatever you got to do to figure out what they're all about. Because I promise you, as somebody who's interviewing somebody, I will know everything there is to know about you when you sit down. So why wouldn't you do the same thing? Right. Research is so important because this goes back, again, this feeds that as if philosophy. It gives you a little more confidence when you walk through the room. When you know that you've done everything that you can possibly do to prepare for something, you walk in a little bit taller than everybody else does. You speak a little more confidently than everybody else does. You look people in the eye a little longer than everybody else does because you know you've done your homework. And then the third R is the most important one. And pardon my French here. It's reason. Why the hell are you here? That's your opportunity to tell your story, because the last question we ask every single person in every single interview, every single time, is why you? So there you go. If you master those 3 R's, I'm telling you, every person out there who's starting the interview process, there should be by the way, I'm a big believer, there should be a mock interview process at every level beginning in 8th grade. I swear there should be, because that's our opportunity to really set people up for success whenever they leave the educational world. But if you ground yourself on those 3 R's and you check the box on those 3 R's, you are giving yourself one heck of a competitive advantage over anybody else you'll interview against. Wouldn't that be it?
You know, it seems so obvious, right, Paul? But I can see why that would be such a stuff. People get so the why's not on their mind, right? It's like I just want it's next for me or whatever the case may be. But I could see that getting people. I really could. I've probably been a victim of that myself at some point in my career.
Yeah.
So that's the joke in New Visions. We start interviews this week for next year, and the last question we ask the kids is, listen, half of all applicants get in, so tell us right now why one of the seats has to have your name on it. So it's the YU. And you know what we get?
Question.
Now again, they're 17, 18 years old, and then I joke with them all when I have them next year. So the answer is, I'll work hard, I'll go above and beyond, I really want this job. Like I'll do anything it takes. And yesterday we had a girl yesterday that said, because I'm a lifelong learner and I'm so excited to be in a room where I can learn from other people as much as they learn from me.
Boom. And what if, hey, you know what? There's the rule of three in action. What if I said to you, you know what? Here's why. These 3 reasons. This, and this.
Yeah.
Boom. All of a sudden, wow, mind blown. You've just set yourself, that person's in whether you want them to or not. But that's the type of mindset you have to have.
Yeah, the best answers are often, and I don't always see it from a younger kid, but where they talk about how they can bring value to the situation. But nobody, like you said, Tom, nobody thinks about it for 2 seconds.
Yep.
So they don't know what to do. Very powerful.
Yep. I mean, let's face it. There's going to come a time when every single kid is going to be in front of a hiring manager interviewing for a job. You either win it or you don't. I mean, it's your 1 hour of fame. That's what we tell people all the time. I mean, we've probably missed out on a bunch of great candidates because they didn't interview well. And see, that's the other thing. I mean, a lot of people tell us that. Well, man, I just don't interview well. Well, what do you mean you don't interview well? Well, you know what? The only way to Carnegie Hall is to practice.
Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a downward spiral. Like I just little things like kids will say, oh, I don't do this. I'm not good at this. And I try to tell them, no, I currently struggle with, but I'm getting better. Right. Yep. And people say the same thing with, adults are the worst because they're already conditioned for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, I was just talking to Matt today, how thank the Lord 3 years ago, I decided to start doing different things. Yeah. And I kicked myself for not acting that way at 22, but at least I did it. Matt, you know
what? Here's what's fascinating. Here's what's fascinating to me. And this is an opportunity for us. I mean, listen, Paul, you're the educator in the room. Like I said, I'm not smart enough for this kind of stuff, but
I'm just
saying
either.
they have everything they need and nothing they don't. Everything they need, they already have. I tell people, the very first thing I tell students when I walk in the room is, look, the cool thing about what I'm about to talk to you about is that every single thing that I say is completely in your control. You don't have to depend on one other person for any of this. You just have to make the decision whether you're going to do the work or not. That's it.
Tom, I feel the same exact way and have a similar way of talking to the younger people. I guess what I always wonder is why do so many people choose not to do it? And I don't know if we had the answer, wouldn't that be something? But it just blows I guess it doesn't blow my mind. I think the answer, for me, I think, well, it's because it's hard, right? I mean, it takes effort and it takes discipline. It takes the consistency that you've already touched on. and some of those types of things. And we want the easy way, right? We want the shortcut. We want the path of least resistance. And that's human nature in its own right in many ways. But I think another thing we do as a society and as a culture is we show success to be so quick and easy, right? It's an hour and a half movie, or it's a 30-minute, series or whatever it is. And we don't do a great job of saying, no, this is what it really was.
Yeah.
And so we paint the opposite picture of what it truly is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're exactly right. I have to get this in because I got to jam this in here because I have a clock at the lower right of my screen, just like you guys have a clock at the lower right of your screen. But I got to jam this in, and I just got to give you guys some props. So I teed this up earlier, and I teased it to you last night, Paul. What you guys are doing here impacts people in ways that you don't even know. Right. And a lot of us can say that about a lot of things. And that's the cool part about doing stuff. Right. So this exact podcast inspired me to partner with a colleague of mine with my company to start an organizational podcast that is now gone nationwide for our organization.
Wow.
Nationwide.
No kidding.
Nationwide for our really big organization. So I partnered with one of my colleagues, and you know what? So I was coming off of a rotation, and she was coming off of a rotation. And what people don't know in our world, when you go into a rotation, your calendar turns into a rainbow. Every minute of your time, every day is taken up, right? But when that ends, it's like falling off a cliff. It's like a letdown. Post-rotation letdown is what we call it, because all of a sudden your calendar gets emptied. And then, so the two of us came together and we thought to ourselves, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do now? Well, we fall back into our regular jobs, but that's not enough for us. What else are we going to do? And I said to her, I'm a big fan of job sculpting. I'm a big fan. The cool thing about rotations is we can take away everything that we liked and we can leave behind everything we didn't like. So let's talk about what we really, really liked. And we liked engaging with people. We liked networking. We liked building relationships, building partnerships and collaborations across the organization. So I said, wait a minute. What about a podcast? And I kind of downplayed it to begin with, but she doubled down. She doubled down on it. She goes, wait a minute. I think we can make that happen. So we went through the process of making this podcast happen. We've been doing it for how long? You guys been doing this now?
This is our third year.
This is our second year. This is our second year of doing it, and we do them monthly. And we've done, darn near 24 of these things. And we came up with our own theme music, and we came up with our own title. We're like, what are we going to call this thing? So the title of our podcast is the Be Your Best Self podcast, where you take what you love, you steal what you love, and you leave behind what you don't.
Nice.
And it's gone viral inside of our organization. So what we do, we reach out to senior leaders throughout our organization. These are people that most people would never have the opportunity to meet. They wouldn't even know who people were. And we bring them in and we ask them a series of questions. We ask them 4 questions. Tell us about your journey. Number 1. Number 2, tell us the best advice you've ever been given by somebody who's led you throughout your journey. Number 3, how do you bring your best self? It is the Best Self, Be Your Best Self podcast. How do you bring your best self to what you do personally and professionally every single day? And then that 4th question is left completely up to them. We ask them for one topic they're passionate about.
Okay.
And then we ask them a question on that one topic. And that's it. It's 20 to 30 minutes. We're in, we're out. Collaborations, mentorships have happened as a result of that. But listen, make no mistake about it. That idea wouldn't even have popped into our head unless you guys had me on for episode 7 what seems like 300 years ago.
Matt,
So it's a big deal.
Matt, somewhere in there, did you just hear Tom say we're going to be on his podcast someday? We're going to be the first
Yeah,
non-organizational.
you just, hey, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. You just might get it, man. You just might get it.
You know what?
Funny.
I'm excited for your company because Matt, like we say, just the fact this does more for me than, well, I'm sure it's impacting people in ways that we don't even know, like you said, but selfishly it impacts me daily. Like we do this every week. I can't do a single thing on the planet if I break down and we don't record an episode, or if I don't practice what I preach. And it just keeps you consistent and accountable. And there, I mean, we do those things anyways, but this is a great way to have better leverage with it. Matt?
Tom, it's like community, right? Your third C. It's like, the community thing is it's for you. I mean, it's for others, but man, when it comes down to it, isn't it for us? The people participating, I know that, I'll say to people I talk to, Paul's class, whoever, I say, everything we do is selfish. Everything you do is selfish. And the point is to say, look, when you're doing these wonderful things in your community, you're helping that elderly person across the street or whatever, you stand a little taller on your way back across the street, right?
Sure do.
And what a win-win, right? What a wonderful thing to be able to help externally, but also help internally. I mean, and it's really special. I had to mention it because you brought up community before, and it's true.
There you go. How about that? Everything we talked about leads back to that rule of three, right? That rule of three. Everything leads back to it, and it just makes things, for me anyway. And again, I always tell people. In fact, when I go into Paul's classes, the first thing I tell people, look, I'm one dude. I'm one hired manager. These are one set of glasses. I'm one opinion. So you got to take that for whatever it's worth. But from my perspective, for me, making things as simple as possible, with whether you're talking about that rule of three or the as if principle or automating, your daily activities, it just makes things run smoother for me, and I've found a great benefit. So.
Listen, I'm excited because when we hit record tonight, we didn't know what we were going to talk about.
Boom! That's awesome.
I knew we wouldn't have a problem.
No, we don't have a problem. But I've got a title, I've got a bio, and when this gets released Sunday, like it was killer. This thing was killer. We appreciate it, Tom. You're going to be a staple on this podcast, whether you like it or not.
I agree.
The answer is always yes. You know that. Next time we'll talk about, I don't know, chop wood, carry water, or something like that.
We got to go. We can't touch that right now. Matt, have you read that book?
I have not.
Go. Gosh, got to do it.
All right.
Short read, simple read. Chop wood, carry water. There you go. There's your reading assignment between now and the next time I'm on this darn thing.
Tom, I'll have it done in 2 weeks.
I'd go a step further. I think that's a perfect book for his employees, even.
Oh man, it's my favorite book. It's my favorite book.
Man, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Part of your hiring materials. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll read it and we'll talk about it. But no, I have not read it, so I look forward to doing so.
Wonderful.
Let us know. And I cheated. I listened to it. I didn't read it. That's that whole.
Well, so did I. Reading's a loose term.
Matt's a reader. Tom, Matt's a reader.
Reading's so 2019, right? Right, Tom?
Oh, readings.
Are you still a reader, Matt?
I'm reading. I think I have 3 different books going on right now, but then I also have my audio books for when I drive. So I mix. I combine.
All right. So you're
remember, you got 4 books going on at one time. My head would explode.
Tom, the only reason that's a little unique. I always have 2, but the only reason I had 4 is because I was recently in Europe and I was reading books on World War II and World War One and
Gotcha.
Waterloo. So
Gotcha.
I was trying to cram all this information because I had these tours that we were going on with our family. So I was trying to cram all this in before, because I had a deadline and I wanted to make sure I knew enough about the Battle of the Bulge, enough about trench warfare, and enough about the Duke of Wellington and Napoleon. So I had to jam it all in.
That's way out of my league, man.
I
Way
love
out
it.
of my league.
Love that stuff. But now that I'm back, I've had to finish some things up. But I do typically read 2 books at a time. One is usually historical, and the other one is either economics or business or something entirely the opposite. And I've found that if I do that, it almost makes I don't know enough about the brain, but it makes something fire up there where things just stick better if I kind of flip flop back and forth one chapter at a time. I don't know if anyone's done a study on it, but it might be worth doing.
Nope.
Matt, you must be wonderful when you're with your groups. The tour guide must love you with all the questions you ask.
I have a lot to say, Paul.
Your wife, I could just see 25 eye rolls a day.
Exactly. Including the guide.
I just can see it. I'm going to bring that up next time we're together. Hey, I think it's so cool. Matt reads all these books before you go on a trip. I can't wait to see that response. Good for you. Good for you. Tom, hey, thanks for keeping it real.
Thanks,
You're
Tom.
the best. Until next time. Thank you.
All right.